So you finally want to move on from TV size, but your nerves just keep giving up the second you get a good combo. Yeah, me too, buddy. But luckily, you've come to the right place, cause that's what today's video is going to be about. What's going on, everybody? It's me, Ste here, and today we're going to look at the best ways you can improve your consistency. But unlike the maps which you should be playing, I want to make this intro as short as possible, so without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Before we can get into the tips, however, I just quickly want to mention that, unlike accuracy, consistency isn't quite as easily measurable. Cause even if your AC only goes up by a single percentage, you will still see that. But sadly, there's no such metric for consistency. But just as with AC, improving it is going to be hard and it's going to take some time. So a lot of people just ignore it because it's way less tangible than just getting a bunch of PP on the latest farm map. But anyways, let's get into the tips. Now first up, it's something which should basically be a given, but have consistent conditions. Which basically just means have a consistent setup. So every time you play O's, first make sure that your monitor is always on the same height, that you always sit the same way, your keyboard always being in the same place, and if you use a tablet, that also having a fixed spot. But most importantly, do not just randomly change your sensitivity. Like, obviously, if something in your setup is a problem for you, just change that, but in general, you want to be as consistent with it as possible. So basically, if you found something which works for you, just keep it that way. Like, when changing your setup, you're basically making all of the muscle memory, which you've developed up to this point, completely worthless. So try to avoid that as much as you can. Alright, for tip number 2, just get a good skin. Personally, I would of course recommend my own, but it basically doesn't matter which one you choose as long as it's clean and you can play with it. Now, you might wonder why I didn't just include this in the last tip as well, but from what I've heard, a lot of people like to switch their skin around quite frequently. Personally, I just end up playing way worse if I change my skin. So I never do, but I guess it's just preference. Plus, I mean, it only changes the visuals, the gameplay stays the exact same, regardless of what skin you use. But whatever you end up doing, as long as you have something clean, which doesn't have a lot of clutter, you should be good. And for my next tip, don't just play the same cookie cutter farm maps which everyone else also has in their top plays. I mean, sure, in the short term they will give you lots of PP, but what is this really worth? Because when you eventually run out of easily farmable maps, you will hit a roadblock. And because before that, you only played maps which were designed to be as comfortable as possible, you never really developed your skills much, so it's going to be a lot tougher for you to get back to climbing. Plus, let's be real here, consistency also means that you can perform well in a variety of different skill sets. But basically every single farm map is focused exclusively on jumps, so you're only training a single skill set. Now, don't get me wrong, farm maps aren't inherently bad, and playing them won't hurt your consistency. They just won't help improve it. I mean, duh. A big part of why you're here is probably because you struggle with playing longer maps, and if it was just that easy, then why would you need this video? But as stupid as it sounds, if you don't play them, you can't expect to get better at them. So realistically, the only way you can improve your stamina is going to be biting down on that bullet and playing longer maps. I mean, sure, in the beginning it's going to be awful, you're gonna run out of stamina, you're going to keep missing, and your nerves are going to go completely haywire. But over time, that's going to change. Also, you don't need to just jump right into marathon maps. Instead, just play maps which are a bit longer than what you would usually play. Also, while doing that, don't expect that you will gain too much PP. The only goal should really be to increase your stamina. Sometimes when playing, you just come across those random patterns which, no matter how hard you try, you just can't seem to hit. But luckily, thanks to the editor, it's actually quite easy to practice them. All you gotta do is find a song with the pattern, go into edit mode, delete everything else, and then just copy and paste it over and over again. And all that's left to do is create a new difficulty, keep the notes, and then name it whatever you want. And then just play that over and over again until you can play the patterns more or less consistently. Sure, most of them aren't really going to be mapped to the music the right way, but in my experience it still helps because you're more training muscle memory than anything else with this. Alright, this is going to be a big one, but it is really important. Don't retry spam. I know, deep down, we're all kinda guilty of it, but it's probably the worst thing you can do to your consistency. Cause while it is true that you only need to hit the patterns once to get the score, flailing your cursor around until you do isn't going to make you a better player. Like, sure, in the best case, you get some PP because you randomly hit a pattern which was still too hard for you. But more often than not, you just end up getting mind blocked. And it gets especially bad when you play those short maps with 1 or 2 difficulty spikes near the end. Because in that case, you're just playing the slow slider part over and over again. What you should do instead is either move on from the map and return once you've gotten better. Or if you're really sad on seeing the map, at least use the last tip I gave you so you can actually practice the patterns. Ideally though, the best thing you can do is just move on from the map and play different ones, so you can actually diversify your skill set. But in reality, when you feel like you're only 1 or 2 tries away from finally getting that FC, it can be quite hard to actually do. So here are some things which you can do to help with that. When playing an unranked map, you can't gain any PP, and there aren't even any leaderboards for that matter. Which in turn removes basically all of the incentives you have to retry over and over. So it gets a lot easier to just play out a run which started off poorly cause you aren't missing out on anything anyways. The only hard part is going to be sifting through that massive pile of shit that is the unranked section until you finally find something decent. The other thing which I can recommend you do is going to be playing in multi-lobbies. Like before I made my Discord, I basically never played multi, but it's actually really fun. But more importantly for this video, it actually helps your consistency, cause people tend to pick more creative maps and you can't just retry them halfway through. Okay, yeah, you can quit during the round, but honestly, that's just mean. Plus, it's honestly just fun to play with others. Just don't be that guy and pick something stupid which takes forever. But now, in conclusion, consistency, while it is one of the most overlooked skill sets, is really important and you should definitely practice it. Cause it's basically going to just open you up to playing all of the maps which the game has to offer. And if you have any further questions, feel free to join my Discord and ask them there, link is down in the description. And with that, we've reached the end of today's video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. And with that, see you next time.